If you were to ask me, hey, do you think episode 6 of She-Hulk will be a simple, self-contained episode focusing on a minor conflict during a wedding? I would have told you that sounds like absolute nonsense, which means it probably wouldn't have surprised me at all. And yet when I heard this, I still couldn't help but cringe.
And if you think this is happening at an inconvenient time in the season, you're right.
Fuck all the way off, episode. There is only one thing that I found worthwhile out of this, and it came at the tail end of the entry, so I'll get to that later. First, let's discuss the wedding itself. After feeling obligated to accept the offer to be a bridesmaid for an old acquaintance she barely considers a friend, Jen ventures to make the most of it by going as She-Hulk. But after receiving heaps of praise upon her arrival, the bride-to-be quickly requests Jen to remain as just Jen for the duration of the ceremony, as she doesn't want the spotlight to be taken away from her. Goodness gracious, she wants to be She-Hulk, they won't let her be She-Hulk. She doesn't want to be She-Hulk, they force her to be She-Hulk. What a tough life. Don't get me wrong, I can see her appeal in wanting to go in Hulk form as she's slowly beginning to accept it more, but what's so horrible about having to remain as Jen for the event? That's always been her preference, and she's currently doing well for herself, so it's tough to believe she'd be upset about the decision. It's honestly so bizarre how much of an effort the show makes to try and make us feel bad for Jen like she has it harder than she really does. She's running her own division at a well-established law firm and has superpowers, yet upon sharing that news with the bride of the wedding, she gets all her success swept to the side to instead be shamed for still being single. As if that's directly her fault, like she forgot to pick up a boyfriend from the grocery store this morning. And what, does that somehow negate the positive she's been experiencing? The problem here is that this scenario and many others throughout the season thus far are not presented in a believable or organic way. And to say quote unquote, but it's just a comedy so it doesn't need to, is not a fair excuse. Good writing presents situations that allows the audience to interpret what's taking place based on the context surrounding it. Bad writing just tries to blatantly tell you how you're supposed to feel or think about something. Remember how back when shows were filmed with live studio audiences and there would be signs that lit up so people knew when to laugh? I feel like watching the show might as well come with signs of its own that light up telling us when to feel bad for Jen. I would, if you'd bother giving us a well enough written and executed reason to. There hasn't really been any big obstacle or issue displayed that she's had to work around. She's basically just been coasting through life with some minor inconveniences. Like the whole fight at the wedding with Titania, which is unbearably ridiculous by the way, including the reasoning behind it. You see, Titania is upset for losing the court case in the previous episode, so her revenge plan is to beat up Jen at a wedding? And that's supposed to somehow prove that Jen doesn't want anything to do with the She-Hulk name. That's some solid logic right there. Side note, I found it so amusing that the moment Jen changes form to fight, the first thing she does is cause some hefty property damage. Nothing to worry about, it was totally necessary, and someone will pay for it. Then they throw a couple of punches before Titania slips and breaks her own face. Way to save the day, I guess. Woo! Oh, but wait, will her estranged friend from high school be mad that she turned into She-Hulk when she specifically asked her not to? Of course not. What, do you think the writers were skillfully setting up a separate confrontation earlier? Someone must have forgotten to temporarily flip off the feel bad for Jen light. Shit, she even has a pleasant encounter with a man who isn't a complete douchebag and gets to share a plate of fries with him at the end. Though I'm sure he will inevitably turn out to be some evil pawn in the attempt to get a sample of her blood, as it's shown they're mysteriously being observed by some people in a lab. Which was the only part of the episode I can compliment. It's about damn time we got some more light shed on what the larger threat looming in the background is. This is what they should have been giving us more of throughout the season. It doesn't have to give all the answers right away, but provide us with some hints that tease as to what's to come. Our only other clear hint towards this was the shit show introduction of the Wrecking Crew. The point is, it's easier for the audience to worry for her character when you know that while she's understandably getting caught up in the everyday tasks like we all do, there's something much more problematic on the horizon. Now they're leaving themselves 3 episodes to try and explain the villain, their intentions, and their motives, and based on the pacing we've gotten up until this point, I can't imagine that won't feel obnoxiously jarring. The only comments I'd like to make about the secondary plot for this episode is I still can't believe their unwillingness to take the law seriously. They have a guy who's immortal seeking assistance with a divorce case. He's admitted to not being able to withstand a conversation with any of his past lovers, and instead of ever listening, he merely commits suicide and calls it a day, knowing he'll come back to life in a second or two. Then, as soon as his lawyer and Nikki start bickering about the moral standing of his decision-making, he runs and breaks through a window of the law firm, landing on a security vehicle in the process. And then he just gets up and walks away. Given he's leaving the scene scratch-free, how are there no legal repercussions for that? Why wouldn't the security guard chase him down or call the cops and press charges for the damages? Are we supposed to give a shit about anything in this show? What's the purpose of kicking aside the severity of one of the main elements your series revolves around for some quick slapstick comedy? I don't know. I just don't get how they believe that's effective. But what I do know is if you made it this far into the video, you most likely agree with what I'm saying, or think I'm some sort of ranting hater, or maybe you think I fall somewhere in the middle. Regardless of how you feel, I just wanted to leave you with this. Did you know that when you click the thumbs up and subscribe button, they change colors? Go ahead, try it out. It is awesome. Okay, bye.